So today's question comes from a young guy who discovered jiu-jitsu much like many of my students, where he found Joe Rogan, and then he found Jocko, and then at some point he started looking up jiu-jitsu and he found me. And he started training recently, and he has a question for me because he's having a problem, right? That's what I'm here to do, talk about problems with people. And he says that he lacks discipline. As a person, he's never really been that disciplined. And, you know, after listening to Jocko a little bit, you probably like want some of that. And so his question to me was just this. He knows jiu-jitsu is a martial art and a sport that's going to require a lot of discipline to stick with it for a long term, but he doesn't feel like that discipline of a person. How can he get more discipline? That's basically the gist of his question. And so, brother, thank you for the question. And before we jump into the idea of what discipline is, let's talk about the definition. I pulled it up on the internet, and then we'll talk about like kind of how I see it. So the definition that I pulled up from the internet, from the old Google, about the definition of discipline is the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. Now, when you think of like your own discipline for yourself, is that what you think about? That's not me. It's not what I think about. When I think of like what discipline means to me, it means to have conscious thought about making sure that my actions align with where I want to be, like my goals and where I want to be in life, right? So for instance, right now, my dumbass thought that it would be a great idea to start cutting weight in holiday season. I started my weight cut at the beginning of November, right? I don't know why that sounded like a great idea, but that's what I decided to do, and I'm okay with it. But, you know, as time's gone on in the holiday season, I'm surrounded by junk food and like baked goods and people bringing stuff to the gym and just delicious stuff everywhere. And I can't have almost any of it. I get one cheat meal a week, right? So maybe if I want to, but I can't get any. I can't just pig out because it doesn't align with my goals right now. I want to lose some weight. I'm going to lean out first, and then I'm going to work my way back up slowly with a nice clean bulk. Now, with that said, being disciplined for me right now is to make sure that my dietary actions, my eating habits line up with my goals. If I was to eat something, right, for simple mouth pleasure, to just start stuffing my face, then for me that would be undisciplined because I don't want to gain weight from junk food right now, right? So it's about having conscious thought about that. In jiu-jitsu, an idea of maybe being disciplined could be something where, let's say maybe you're a really good wrestler. You come into jiu-jitsu and you want to start to be good off your back. Well, then you're going to be you have to be disciplined about not immediately going to your best positions when something goes wrong, right? A lot of times what happens is you say, okay, I want to get good at off my back. So you start playing guard. And then as soon as someone starts to really give you a run for your money, you just pop back up for a takedown. You would be undisciplined because your goal is to become a well-rounded grappler for the long term in jiu-jitsu, not just to win this one roll right now. And so in that moment, being disciplined is to have that conscious thought of, even if you're getting frustrated because you're getting beat off your back, it's okay because long term, that's where we want to be. And so that's the idea. To me, discipline is nothing more than simply making sure that what you're doing lines up with where you want to be. That's it, right? And so again, it doesn't have to be this celestial power that is bestowed upon battle-hardened Navy SEALs or just a lucky, randomly selected group of people and the rest of us are just, you know, got nothing. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be this thing. All it has to be is, what you're doing right now and what you did today and everything else, are your habits and your actions, do they line up with where you want to go? If they don't, change them. Be more disciplined about it. And something that helps, at least this helps me, is whenever I sort of pick a path in my life that I want to go, whatever that might be, whether it's physical training or jiu-jitsu or business or whatever it is I want to do. I always think about like the image of what that looks like. So that like, let's say for instance, when I want to lose weight right now, I'm sort of picturing in my head what I look like with that weight loss, right? And I'm like eating this like handful of homemade Chex stuff with sugar powder everywhere. Is this going to help me look like the guy that I want to look like? No. So I dump that, right? So again, you can think about that just as an idea for whatever you got going on in your own life that requires more discipline to create a vision for yourself. Who is it that you want to be? What do you want to win? Any of that stuff. Even like jiu-jitsu competitions, I'd always have this image of like myself on the top of the podium if I was getting ready for a competition or getting my hand raised in MMA fights. And then so when I was training, a lot of times I'd be very tired because you're training really hard. And then I would have to go train again. And sometimes I didn't want to, but I would think about if I skip this training session, is this going to help me get closer to who I'm trying to be, right? Who I'm trying to turn into in order to win these things. And if the answer is no, well, then I have to, change my actions. And again, there's a practice element to that. You have to get good at practicing that, and again, remaining conscious of your thoughts. Because again, there's an interesting thing where I was talking to Eugene about this the other day. There's this weird thing where sometimes like we think we're in control, right? We're like this little guy. Like, a lot of us think of our consciousness like we're this person like right here between our eyes, and we're just controlling this big like flesh and bone suit and telling it to do stuff. But when you think about it, sometimes you do things, and then after the fact, you're not really glad you did them. You know, maybe you give into like some sort of hunger pang and you eat a bunch of crappy food, or maybe you snap at someone and become very angry for a moment, and then when you stop to actually think about it consciously, you're like, why did I do that, right? We've all done that stuff. And so again, it's, to me, discipline is just being a little bit more thoughtful and being conscious about the decisions you're making. And again, making sure that they align with who you want to be and where you want to go, that kind of idea. So anyway, that's long enough for your question, brother. Thank you so much, and hopefully that's useful to you, and I'll talk to you guys next time.